Before we start, Holy Father, we just invite you into our midst. We ask that you come, Holy Spirit, to come and lead, guide us, speak to us this evening. Pray that you come and take your place and reign to minister, to heal, to comfort, and to bless us this evening. In Jesus' name. Amen. So, first thing we realize from the book of Luke 1:37, it talks about the message of the angel to Mary that with God, nothing shall be impossible. And that's the reality that Mary realized in a very difficult time in her life when she had been chosen to be the mother of Christ, an unwed young mother, and that was a very difficult thing at that time in Nazareth. And she was a virgin, and God said she was going to have a child. She said, "How will this be?" And he said, "With God, nothing shall be impossible." So I'm sure that we all know the word El Roi, the God who sees you. There are many times in our life when we feel invisible to the world, when we are abandoned, when we are alone, when we are isolated. But we must realize that we have not escaped God's notice. God sees us right exactly where we are. So we find that this story we read today about the widow is very interesting because it's amazing that Elisha had just helped Israel defeat 3 kings. And you would think that after such a very big assignment, we'll be meeting with the kings and with the top government officials to have a debrief about the war. But then this widow comes to him and he has time to minister to her. So the same God who used this prophet to give victory to Israel also used the prophet to meet the need of this lady. So one thing it confirms to us is that life is full of needs and everybody has needs, no difference. The rich also cry, the poor also cry, and we all go through life needing something. Some need financial help, some need a good relationship, some need to be appreciated, some need mental resilience, some need employment, some need one form of validation or the other. Everybody has a need. Nobody is different. And one thing we find out is that bills pile up and wait for 30 days to manifest. Somebody said it's when you take a loan from the bank that you know that 30 days or 1 year is very short. Is the reality. So our income and our expenses appear to be at war. They never meet. Income and expenditure are far apart. And at the same time, you find that the more we earn, the more we have to spend. So we never really have an equilibrium. We always need something. And we will learn to know why that happens. So because of this need that we have, we find that we are finite. We don't have total control of our lives. We can't hold the future and control it, irrespective of what we feel. Even those who amass wealth find that they don't have good health. I know a former president of Nigeria who is now bedridden in spite of all the money he has. So he has the money but doesn't have health. Some have health, they don't have money. So income and expenses always seem to be at war, and anxiety and worry takes root in many hearts. And that's the way God made it from the beginning. God made Adam and Eve, and he put them in the garden, in the midst of plenty. And he said to them, "You may eat of any tree of the garden." In other words, I will feed you every day. Every day you wake up, you will go out, you look at the garden for what you want to eat, and you will eat it. So you need the garden for sustenance. Adam and Eve were not self-sustaining. And that was why when God sent them out of the garden, he said, "Out of your sweat, now you eat." So they tried to be self-sustaining, but what happened was that they now became what they did not want. They thought they'd be wise and they'd be self-sufficient, but they now found out that they were now really dependent more on God. Same thing with Israel when they passed through the desert for 40 years. God said to them, you must take manna for each day. And if you take for 2 days, by the time you wake up in the morning, it will be rotten. So every day you wake up, you have to look up to heaven and ask for manna for today. And then when you get the manna, you thank God for it and you eat. And then on the Sabbath day, you keep for 2 days and then it does not spoil. But every other day, if you keep more than that day's supply, it will get rotten. This is amazing. So it showed that God was controlling their supply. He didn't want them to, at any point in time to have more than one day's food at a time. And this is something that we really have to learn. So just setting the background before we get to sort of widow and the oil. So we need to need God. That's the way that God made us. We need to need Him. We need to always have a need to look up to Him. We need to have a need to call upon Him daily. This is what God has designed from the beginning. Remember that when God created all things, He spoke them into being. But when He would make man, He took an empty shell and He hugged it, breathed into it, and the man became a living soul. And so God made man to depend on Him. That the very breath of his life is nepesh, what makes him a soul, will be from God. And that's why you have the parable of the rich fool. The Bible calls him a rich fool because he had money, he had a good harvest, he had wealth, and suddenly he said, I'll put down my bands and I will enjoy what I've amassed. And he forgot God in that equation. And God said to him, tonight, your nepesh will be required of you. The soul will be taken away from you. So I'm just putting this for us to realize that God wants us to wait on Him so that He can provide for us. Just like a parent, it would be ridiculous to have a child in your house hiding food under the bed, hiding food in the wardrobe, hiding food in the cupboard, which he has stolen from the kitchen or from a neighbor's house or from school. The parent will be utterly worried that why is the child doing that? Why is he hoarding food? When I am your parent, even if you're going to be with me for 18, 19, 20 years, I will feed you. Whatever little I have, we eat together. So even a human parent does not expect the child to hoard or gather food and be independent of the parent. He expects the child to come to the table every day, and whatever daddy or mommy have put on the table to eat from it. So God does not guide those who want to run their own lives. When a man decides I'm going to be self-sufficient, heaven withdraws from him. And that was the test for Job. Test Job. Let's know if he depends on God or he depends on his wealth. And of course, Job started testifying colors. People find that the curse of the serpent is very curious. I've talked about the curse of the rotten manna. When God said to Israel that you must only take the manna for each day. And even Christ said, give us each day our daily bread. That was a prayer that he taught us himself, not the church or any pastor or anybody. Christ said, pray to God and say, Abba, give us each day our daily bread. So we have the curse of the serpent in Genesis chapter 3. Interesting. Verse 14. It says to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all animals, both domestic and wild. You will crawl on your belly. So God said to the serpent, because you have deceived the man and the woman, you will crawl on your belly. So you will no longer stand, you will lie down and crawl on your belly all your life. That's what this needs to do. But the next thing is very important. It says, you will grovel in the dust as long as you live. So it says you will crawl on the belly and the dust shall be your food. And then it says to him, you will crawl on your belly and you will live in the dust. So the dust will be your food and you will crawl in the dust. What God was saying to the serpent is, serpent, you will eat dust. You will crawl in the dust. So your life will be like an open refrigerator. You will live like you are in a fridge, in a freezer, in a buffet. You will never pray again. You will never need me again. You are cut off from me. That was the cause of the serpent. So the serpent, till today, does not hunt for food. The serpent has food come to it. Wherever a snake is, there'll be rats, there'll be rabbits, there'll be anything he wants to eat. Even the huge pythons, they don't go hunting. Yoruba people say in a proverb, "Ibi tokawa ló ń jẹ́ pọ̀wágbà." Anywhere a python is, the food comes to meet him there. That's the cause of the serpent. That the serpent will never look for food, never pray to God again and say, God, give me daily bread. God has given him an endless supply of food so that he will never remember him. And that's what happens to many people. They want to amass different things that will give them comfort in life: money, pleasure, houses, titles, different things, position, power. And if God indeed gives them up to their own reprobate minds, they never need him again. That's why he warned Israel in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, and Deuteronomy 28 to the end. He says, now you are going to go into the promised land. You're going to plant and harvest. You're going to take wealth that you did not prepare, but you will enter into it. And he said, one thing you will do for me, O Israel, do not forget the Lord your God. I do not turn to any idols. But you find that Israel turned to idols and they forgot God. Once they got comfortable, they took over Jericho. In fact, the next thing you find is that before they went to Ai, the man called Akan was already acquiring jewelry and wealth for the parties and the Owambe was going to attend. And him and his wife and children were destroyed. So the allure of wealth and accumulation was already coming upon them. And that's the background for this story. So the widow and the olive oil. So in 2 Kings 4, they say a wife of a man from the company of the prophet, you know, this is the prophet Obadiah. It was Obadiah's wife, cried out to Elisha, your servant, my husband, Obadiah, is dead. And you know that he revered the Lord. Of course, you know the book of Obadiah is a book that shows us the heart of this man. But now his creditors are coming to take my 2 boys as slaves. Elijah said to her, how can I help you? Funny enough, in the same sentence, he answers his own question with another question. Tell me, what do you have in your house? And he says, your servant has nothing there at all. I have nothing in my house. You know, like many of us look around our lives and we think we have nothing. The truth about it that God always likes people that have nothing. When he made creation at the beginning, it was empty without void, and he used it and he gave us this creation. When he called Moses, he asked him what was in your hand. He said, I have a stick. He took him. When he called Mary, he said, the Lord's handmaid, do with me as you wish. So God always likes empty vessels. He said, I have just a small jar of olive oil. He says, go around, ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for a few. Then go inside, shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, that each one is filled, put one to one side. So we see that God wanted to be alone with this widow, wanted to be alone with her, to fill her up. Because he said, in your rest and in quietness shall be your strength. He said, you will be still and know that I am God. So God always wants us to come apart to a separate place, to be with him in worship. Then he fills our life with what is lacking. She left him, shut the door, went with her sons, and they brought all the jars together. She kept pouring. And when the jars were full, he said to her, give me another one. And he said, there's no more any jar. And then the oil stopped flowing. So we'll come back and we'll talk about this. Let's watch this together.
We have come to collect your husband's debt. We have waited long enough. Woman! Answer me! We have come for your husband's debt. Pay it. All of it.
My husband is dead, and I have nothing. What are you doing? Please.
How old are you?
No. 13.
They will do well in my field. Both of them. 3 days. If you do not pay all of it, I'll take both your sons. I'll be back soon.
Elisha!
Hello.
Your servant, my husband, is dead. You know he feared the Lord, and that he was known among the prophets. Now, his creditors, they want to come and take my children as his slaves.
What do you have?
What?
What do you have in your house?
I have nothing.
What do you have?
Nothing. Except a little oil.
Bring it to me. Go to your neighbors and get all their empty jars. Get as many as you can carry and bring it here. Pour the oil into the empty jars. When each is filled, put it to the side. Get all you can carry.
I need another jar. Hurry. Hurry, I need another jar. Give me another jar. But there are no more. We did as you said, and...
Go sell your oil and pay your debts. And you and your sons live on the rest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, I don't know what was the best part of that um, video for you, but for me, I think it was the part when she took that coin and took it to the creditor, gave it to him, and he saw the huge bag in her hand. Anyway, let's just look at some key lessons to take away. The first thing is we find that even though we have so many needs, we don't need to talk to any human being. We don't need to complain. We don't need to grumble. We don't talk about the economy, talk about the president, talk about the system. We need to talk to God. We find the widow at the beginning on her knees praying. The situation was overwhelming. She knew what was coming. And it did come because the creditor did knock the door while she was praying and told her that I give you a deadline. Will take your children into slavery. This was a woman who feared God and served God. Her husband feared God and served God. But nevertheless, Prophet Obadiah did not live long enough to raise his children. And now his children were in want, and his wife could not take care of them. But she was still in prayer. That is the life of faith. The righteous, the Bible says, will always have many afflictions, but they need to look to God, because who else will we look to? David said, in all the midst of all my troubles, remember in Psalm 132, he said, Lord, remember David and all his troubles. But in Psalm 121, he says, Lord, in all my troubles, I look up to you, because from you my help comes, the maker of heaven and earth. It is really had faith in God. And she went to the prophet and said to him, my husband, a servant of God, served God, and now family is an embarrassment. And she was ready to obey and do anything. She was humble enough to admit her reality. She was not borrowing to survive, neither was she living a fake life. She went into the marketplace. People saw she was a poor, needy widow. And she was definitely in a station in life. And the prophet looked at her and said to her, how can I help you? She said, you know, I need to rescue these children and I need to have something to live on. So in our asking God, we need to be specific. Many times we ask God to bless us and prosper us. I don't know what that means. Um, Even when you go to the court, you need to formulate what are the issues you want for determination. What do you want the judge to give you judgment about? And you have to be specific. If you want him to say your contract is invalid, then you need to say it's invalid. If you want him to also give you damages or restitution or performance, then you need to ask for it. So the same thing with God. God is Jehovah El Mishpat, the Lord our judge, our righteous judge. We need to be specific when we come before him to ask. And the Bible says that I will enter his courts, in case with thanksgiving, and his courts with praise. So the court of God is really a court, like a human court. And when you come into the court, you must bring your petition and you must bring what you want. The lady was specific. I want to rescue my children. I want to remove this shame from my family. I want to break this yoke of poverty. I want to break this threat of the creditor. I want to live. You know, like that man that was killed in America who said, I can't breathe. This lady was saying, I can't breathe. Problems are choking me. But with a broken heart, she will still worship God. So I want to encourage each of us today. Don't give up. Never give up. Never, never give up. As long as God is, God can open your eyes and show you witty inventions. So the woman was told that there's something in your house. She couldn't remember what it was. Say, go and look for it. There's something. She said, oh, yeah, I have a little oil. Say, fine. Take that oil out of your fridge and go and gather jars. Now, this is where social network matters. This lady must have had a good reputation. Otherwise, if she had sent her children out and she had gone out to borrow jars, nobody would have borrowed her. And if nobody borrowed her, she would have gotten the miracle. But because she was at peace with people, she had a good reputation. She was kind. I mean, when she was looking for the prophet Elisha in that movie, she saw the beggars and she was moved with compassion, but she had nothing to give them. But that will show you the spirit she had. She's the kind of person that even when she has a little bowl, she will share with those around her. But when she asked for empty jars, people gave her empty jars. There was a famine in town anyway. So we don't need the jars. You can have them. And she involved the children. Many times we don't involve the coming generation and intentionally teach them the way of the Lord. So this woman told her children, you join me and let's see what God will do. Of course, we find that God came to their aid and did what only God can do. So we learn some big takeaways. Number one, my God is a very big God. All this man wanted to do was pay the creditors. But no, God was going to do more than that. He was going to show off with her. He was going to make her pay off not only the creditors, but have some change. God is able, trust him. God is able, trust him. God is able, trust him. Very important. Don't be moved by your circumstances or the reports of what you hear, but be moved by what God can do. Number two, what God cannot do does not exist. That is really a modern way of saying nothing is impossible with God. And this is true. God has shown us over and over again that he can do all things. So Israel came to the Red Sea and they had nothing to do. They couldn't go forward, they couldn't go backward. God says, no, look back, you see the nations today, you won't see them again. Now go forward. They went forward, they crossed the Red Sea, God parted it, and they came to the other side. And Pharaoh, who tried to come after them, and his army were drowned in that sea. What God cannot do does not exist. He can part the Red Sea for anybody. He can make a way where there's no way. And I'm praying for you today that God will visit you and make a way where there's no way for you. What you are looking up to heaven for, I pray God will show you that he can do it and that he is able. I like that song we used to sing, that he is able to abundantly deliver those who trust in him. Just trust God. What God cannot change does not exist. The woman with the issue of blood, the widow whose son died, and she ran to tell the prophet that the boy you gave me is dead. The widow of Nain, who had lost her only son, lost her husband, and Christ touched that bear and said, young man, arise. Lazarus in the grave for 4 days. God has evidence. God has evidence that what he cannot change does not exist. Therefore, wealth is created. The human had to work. God did not answer our prayer by putting some gold bars under our bed or putting some coins in her pocket. No. She went out to borrow jars. She poured oil. She closed the door. She was alone with her God. She was not bragging to people about the miracle. Like, oh, Elisha has told me to go and gather vessels. I'll soon be rich. No, no, no. She kept quiet. She did her work. And God blesses only your work. It was anything I learned in Israel, it was the fact that you need to work hard and God will do the rest. So you find Peter, he borrowed Christ's sheep because he had toiled all night and he had caught nothing. He had to go home to his wife, his nagging wife, who was going to tell him that you are an irresponsible man, you can't pay the children's school fees, you can't pay the rent, you caught nothing all night, you're a useless man. He had that shame coming for him. But God said to him, hey, Peter, thank you for giving me your boat. Now cast your net out to the other side. So he had to walk. And then when he cast out the net to the right side, I would say that there was an in-tone of fish. And he had enough to pay his bills. But Peter had to walk. Peter didn't say, oh, thank you for giving me your boat. Look under the rudder or under the paddle. I left something there for you. Oh, no, no, no. Throw out your nets. In Psalm 1, he lives. He says, I like he says, blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly, or sleep with sinners, or join with mockers, but delights in the law of the Lord. It says, he will be like a tree planted by the river bank, bearing fruit in season. His leaves will never wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. So this righteous man, God says he will bear his fruit in due season, and whatever he does shall prosper. So what will he do that will prosper? If you go to Psalm 90, we see the Psalm of Adam, and it says to us there, replace the evil years with good. Give us gladness in proportion to our former misery. Satisfy us each morning with your unfailing love, and make us sing for joy to the end of our lives. And it says, let your servants see your work. Let our children see your glory. Just as if it was written for this widow. And then it says in verse 17 of Psalm 90, and may the Lord our God show us his approval and make our work successful. Yes, make our very efforts successful. So God bless our effort. God bless our work. God establishes the works of our hand and gives us our bread each morning. And finally, where your strength ends, God's power begins. That's what we learned from the widow and the oil. That there were people in worse condition than her, but she had the wisdom to turn to God with a track record of faith, worship, and service. And when she got that oil, everybody was blessed. People were buying the oil at a cheap price. The oil was available in a famine. There was no oil in the market. So the oil was, even though at a premium, it was available for people to eat. So God made her not only blessed, but a channel of blessing. And I pray that God will prepare a table before you in presence of your enemies, and you anoint your head with oil, and your cup shall be full and running over. God will give you more than enough. My God is a very big God. Father of the Lord. Thank you. Lord, we just thank you because we know that the God who loves the prosperity of his servants. Pray for everybody in every condition who hear this voice and who hear these words. That you, Jehovah, Jireh, the Lord our provider, will meet them at the point of their need, even as you met that widow. You open their eyes, show them witty inventions, and like water poured on a dry land, the word says, so is good news from afar. I pray, Father, that joy and good news will break forth from their camp, and your name will be praised. There's nothing you cannot do, there's nothing you cannot change. Oh God, we pray for a divine touch for your people. Do what only you can do. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
In your life. Hey, Adabaye, Nana, Yani.